Hello everyone, welcome to a new video from Chess Today. I'm bringing you an absolutely amazing trap that's going to leave your opponents with no options at all, and in the worst cases, crying. Yesterday, I asked you for 500 likes to see this trap, and of course, we reached that number of likes. That's why today, I'm bringing you this incredible trap. It's with the black pieces, just like you all love, and also against the move e4, which is the most popular move for the white pieces. In other words, this trap has it all. Let's take a look. We'll play e5, the double king's pawn opening, the most traditional. Knight to f3, attacking this pawn, and we'll play knight to c6 to defend it. As you can see, everything is very normal up to this point, and most games are played this way. Bishop to c4, following the most standard line in the Italian opening. And here, I'm going to suggest the move knight to h6. I know a lot of you don't like this move because you're really afraid of this other move here, which is called the fried liver attack. Well, from this video on, you'll actually want your opponents to play this attack against you, because I'm going to show you how to punish it in a way that'll leave your rivals amazed. So what do I need to do? Do I need to play d5, the most traditional move here? No, obviously we're going to set a trap for our opponent. We have to understand that what they're attacking is this point here, with the knight and the bishop. So what we're going to do is not defend it and just give away our knight. We take this pawn, notice that it's defended by the knight, so Chesty Chat, you're going crazy. Well, I always go crazy. But hey, this works because I've won a ton of games playing this trap. Let's look at all the options. First, what happens if they take this knight, right? What happens if we're just giving away a knight and they simply take it, chest and chair? Are you down a piece? What's going on? Well, here we have the strong move, d5. Notice that d5, what is at the red? It's a fork on the bishop and the knight. So right away, we're going to get the piece pack. And here, the white pieces have a lot of options. For example, if they move the bishop back, we take. Let's see, if they move the knight back, we take the bishop and end up a pawn up. The pawn on d4. On the other hand, oops, I'm dropping the piece. On the other hand, if they don't want to lose this pawn and they recapture here, then notice that they've traded their light-squared bishop, which is super powerful, for our knight. So that's a favorable exchange for us. It's true that here they might attack your queen with the other knight while also defending this knight here, but in this case, I recommend you just retreat and play this very comfortable position for yourself, because it's an open position and you have the pair. The bishop pair, well, that's really good. But now we get to the interesting part of the video. Let's see. We take this pawn here. We've already seen what happens when they take this knight here. But chess teacher, with such a strong threat here, who's going to take this knight? If they do take this knight, you already know how to respond. But now comes my favorite part of this trap. When your opponent gets greedy and wants to beat you and tries to take this pawn here, for example with the knight. Notice that now this knight is forking your queen and your rook, and it's protected by the bishop, so it looks like a really nasty threat. Chess teacher, how do I counter this threat? Well, don't worry, we've got some tricks up our sleeve. We're going to move our queen directly to h4. What are we doing here? We're making an even stronger threat than our opponent. First of all, what are we threatening? A brutal checkmate, if our opponent takes the rook, right? Which, of course, they're not going to do. We would just deliver a brutal checkmate. So our opponent is no longer threatening our rook. That's the first thing. Notice that here the opponent has several options to avoid the checkmate. The most logical one, which is it? So I'm going to show you how to crush your opponent in a brutal way when they play g3. Here, the amazing move is knight takes pawn. You'll see that you're going to have a really, really, really good time playing this, because you'll win a ton of games. We sacrifice the knight, but are we really sacrificing this knight? Let's look at all the options. First option, what happens if they take this knight with this pawn? Nothing, because we take the rook with check. And here, we're winning. So they can't take this knight with this little pawn because of the rook, right? What happens, for example, if they say, well, I don't buy it, and I take the rook? Sorry, that can also happen. Notice that right now we've taken 2 pawns and our opponent has taken a whole rook. But then we simply put the queen in front of the king. Queen to e4 check. And notice that a very beautiful checkmate is coming here. The king can't move thanks to this knight, so they have to block. And once they block, we come and take the rook here with check. They have to block again, and now it's checkmate. So they can't take with this one because we capture. They can't take the rook because we deliver checkmate with the queen over here. But what happens if they take with this pawn here? Is everything lost? Careful, not everything is lost. Sorry, this bishop is here? Let me not forget that, okay? This is how it stands, right? And what happens if they take with this pawn? Then we simply give check again here in the center of the board, check. And notice that now they might try to come here to connect the queen with the rook, and we wouldn't be able to take the rook anymore. However, we have a completely winning bishop move. Bishop to c5, check. And now the king has to go back. Once the king goes back, it no longer connects the queen with the rook. So now we're free to capture with check. The king has to move, and here we can even bring in the knight with check. This king has to keep moving. I guess he won't want to step into the bishop's discovered attack, so he'll go this way. And whatever he does, we'll take the queen. We have an extra queen, an extra rook. At this point, if you can't win from here, if you don't know how to win this, then you need to practice a bit more, okay? Pay attention, because I'm going to show you a move that people play against me a lot, and it can be punished in a brutal way. First, we capture here. They hit us with a fork. And now, what should we do? Well, bring the queen into the attack, remember? Here, a lot of people play the surprisingly bad move, queen to f3. They think that this way they're reinforcing here, defending against mate and attacking the knight. But this is a really serious mistake. What they're actually doing is helping us bring another piece into the attack with a lot of force. Look, knight to e5, we bring in both knights. Now we're attacking this queen, we're attacking this square here, and if the queen moves, we'll deliver checkmate. So what happens here? The threats are just too big. There's even a little trick that a lot of people try to find, which is to sacrifice this knight with check. We can definitely take it, and notice that they might try to come in here, but that's nothing more than a check, because we simply move the king aside, and now they have nothing left. For example, how can we continue from here? Now here, the white pieces can castle, for example, and we're going to attack the queen. Notice that this queen can only go here, and with a knight move, like this one, the queen is going to be completely trapped. See, it can't go anywhere. The best they can do is take this rook, and we'll just capture the queen. So what happens? They've gotten themselves into trouble. Queen to f3, a terrible move, very important to note. When we play queen to h4, we've seen that most defenses lose, but what happens if, for example, they don't take the rook? If they don't play g3, if they don't play queen to f3, we've looked at all these options, but there's still another one. What if they castle directly? They're already protecting the square with the rook, with the king, there's no longer any checkmate, and they're still threatening our rook. Just teacher, what do I do? Well, don't worry, because we have a brutal move. We sacrifice the knight again. This knight gets sacrificed in almost every line. Look, knight takes f2. What happens now after sacrificing this knight? Well, what we're going to do is bring our bishop into play to pin this rook. Look, a pinned piece is one that can't move because the king is behind it. So now what? Well, white is in serious trouble. They have to try to defend themselves somehow, for example with queen to f3 so they don't lose the rook outright. Look, now it would be. Losing the rook outright, they have to defend it somehow. Queen to f3 seems like one of the few moves that defends it. So we have to continue, for example, with this rook here. It's very important. Look, could we trade bishop for rook? Obviously yes, but it's not necessary. Why? Because this piece, being pinned, can't be moved. Therefore, we can capture it whenever we want. We simply bring another piece into the attack, and notice that the attack is even stronger than before, because now we're also pinning this knight to the queen. So we've got them tied up. And when am I going to trade, chess teacher? Well, when you're forced to. For example, now, yes, they're starting to threaten us with the queen, so now, yes, what do? We start exchanging everything. Bishop takes, rook recatches. And then when they take, for example, queen takes bishop, we take advantage of having brought this rook over here, and now this knight is pinned. They can't defend it any other way. We're attacking it with 3 pieces, and it's only defended by 1. So here, no matter what they do, whether they attack our queen or whatever else they try, we take this knight and notice that we end up with a completely favorable exchange. Whether they trade queens or not, we're left with a rook and a pawn up. That's more than enough advantage to win the game. Very good, very good. Justika, I'm really enjoying this. But what happens if instead of taking with the knight, they take with the bishop and give check? Of course, we haven't looked at that yet. Don't worry, because I'm also going to show you how to win if they check you. Hey, but here I'm forced to move the king. Yes, and we're going to move it without any problem, because here we're going to set up a truly amazing trap. Let me tell you something. Since I know you all like these videos, the only way I have to know is by seeing your support. So if you leave a lot of likes, it means you enjoy this video or this type of videos, and therefore I'll upload more videos like this to the channel. So if you give it a big like and I see a lot of support, I'll keep posting this kind of content daily, and we'll keep having a great time. Now then, let's see. We move the king here, getting back on track. They can take our knight, and we can take the bishop. And notice that now our king is very exposed. They can be attacked easily, for example, with a piece like the queen. But what happens? That here, they only have the knight to attack, and it's not too strong. Not strong enough to win the game for them. We can hide either on g8 or on e8, and absolutely nothing will happen. I'm going to give you an example and show you a trap you can avoid if you face this kind of attack. For example, queen to f3 might look like a strong threat. Can't even talk. A strong threat because the queen is coming in, and so is the knight. However, all we have to do is move our king back to where it was. King to e8 and nothing happens there. Notice that they might try to come in with the knight, but right now it's defended by the queen. So a natural move would be d3 to support it with the bishop and the knight. How do we respond to this move? Well then, what we're going to do is play d5, forcing the knight to move. Where can I go? Well, it seems like we're helping it jump over here to take advantage of this checkmate. And this is where we're going to set our star trap. We'll play queen to f6, which is not only the best move, but also a brutal trap. If they trade queens, we end up with a huge positional advantage. Since we control the center, this knight would have to retreat, and we have the pair of bishops. Therefore, we're much better here. However, notice that by playing queen to f6, we're giving away this pawn on d5. And what happens if they get greedy and take it? Because, let's be honest, they do get greedy, especially when we're playing online. We leave a pawn hanging and they snap it up instantly. Well, now we have the brutal move, knight to d4, and now this knight and rook jump is completely unstoppable. There's absolutely no way to stop it. And you, since I've caught you already, are probably thinking, hey, why not? And what if I put the queen here? Ah, my friend, I caught you, didn't I? See, you would fall for the trap too. That's why you also have to give it a like. So let's play this move right here. Notice that we're not sacrificing the pawn because it's protected by the knight. Where can this queen go? The only place to keep defending this point is to come back here, right? Well then, we have the wonderful move that I love, bishop to b4, and we're pinning the queen. A fantastic tactic. This queen can't go anywhere because the king is right behind it. It's pinned. And if they take the bishop, which looks like a gift, then we simply jump in here. Knight takes pawn, check. But it's a triple check. We take the rook, and we take the queen. So when they move the king, you get to decide what to capture. I obviously recommend you take the queen. Since you all have been behaving so well with me lately, I'm going to show you a final line that's going to blow your minds, right? Next, knight to f3, knight to c6 defending, bishop to c4. We bring the knight to f6, and in the fried liver attack, we take this pawn. What happens when they take us with a bishop? What were we just looking at now? We simply come over here, and after these pieces are exchanged, what are we going to do? Check this out, okay? For example, what we were looking at with ag3, we hide the king. And now, after a move like d3 to come over here, we play d5. Do you remember this? Alright, what happens if instead of coming to attack, they go back? Well, I have a fabulous idea for you. h5, we're threatening to play h4. And since this knight is retreating, we're also threatening to come in here with the queen. Over here, we're creating some brutal threats. So this pawn is basically a gift, and usually, they take it. But what happens when they take this pawn? They're falling into our trap, as always. Queen to h4. Now we're threatening the knight with two pieces, so it has to retreat. And how do we... Let's say continue this lie. Well, now we're gonna bring the knight over here, threaten the queen, and threaten this one here. Only move. You already know it. The only move to come and defend a queen. And at this point, bring the queen here. And now we bring the bishop into the attack. Notice that we're coming in with everything. There's no way for them to defend themselves. Only move, F3. And now, the star move, a bomb move. We sacrifice the queen for the knight. Check out what a brutal bomb this is. Because they can't take this queen, since rook takes rook would come. Check. And when the king hides and gets out of check, we'll take the queen. Look at the position we're left in, right? With an extra piece after sacrificing the queen. This line is a bomb. Now, I really hope you loved this video. Remember, if you like these kinds of videos, leave me a like so I know, and I'll make many more videos like this one, so you don't miss our daily video. YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video, and I'll see you in the next video, friends. Goodbye.